Focus this morning was on regulation, Governor. I imagine the conversation shifted at least at the beginning. The president didn't attend. The vice president was there to convene this summit. What was the conversation like? How have you reacted to the news that we got overnight out of Las Vegas?
Well, you know, we were able to be briefed a little bit on the numbers that were coming in, and obviously they're tragic, and I think everyone shares the same sentiment. Our first and foremost thoughts are on the families. They're on the victims. It's a time for reflection. I cannot tell you how wonderful it is to know that the Las Vegas police responded the way they did, and they, without a doubt, saved countless lives. And so we were talking a lot about that in terms of emergency response measures. They did a fantastic job there. But right now, I think everyone agrees it really has to be on the families and on the victims.
Already we're hearing from the minority leader, Nancy Pelosi, talking about creating a committee on gun violence. Where would you stand on such an issue?
Well, again, you know, the fact that we're just a few hours into this crisis, this tragedy, I don't think it's really time to start talking about, you know, political grandstanding and things of that nature. I think everybody's thoughts have to be on the victims. They have to be in prayer. They have to be in reflection. That's what this time is for.
Let me ask you about the substance of the meeting you had at the White House this morning. This administration has said a high priority for it is on deregulation, changing the regulatory landscape in Washington and around the country. From your perspective, as the governor of the state of New Hampshire, what needs to change? What should the focus be on in Washington, D.C. to improve the lives for those in the granite state?
Cut regulations, and then cut some regulations. The fact is that our government has increased regulations 10 times in the past 50 years. They become tenuous. You can't really understand them as a small business owner. You can't wrap your hands around what the real process is there. So you got to start cutting it down. You got to start being more common sense approach. We do that very well in New Hampshire. About 2 months ago, I personally got rid of 1,600 rules and regulations in our state. We just wiped them straight off the book. And look, sometimes you might have to come back and readjust a few things, but I think the word for Washington has to be cut the regulations and let the states have real control over their destiny.
President Trump, of course, promised to cut 2 existing regulations for every new one that his administration creates. How would you assess the progress of that? Is that what we're seeing on the ground?
Absolutely. We're in the first stages of it here, of course. They brought governors in. They brought a lot of the cabinet secretaries in. They bring a lot of the folks across the country that have firsthand perspective on how these regulations influence their lives. Folks in Washington have no perspective on how regulations truly affect the American people. And that's why you got to reach out to the states, reach out to the mayors or a county commissioner or a small business owner or a large business owner. You got to get that firsthand perspective to understand what to do. The president understands this very clearly, and I think this is a great move for the Trump administration.